Hey guys, Drew here, Tennis Crier. I just have a couple of my tennis buddies here and I'm explaining something about the Rafa Nadal-Roger Federer match at the French Open and why the wind effectively ruined pretty much what probably could have been a great match. I stated that on Twitter, and I don't think, you can't really explain a whole lot on Twitter, and I'm not sure anybody really understands my take on it and why I even said Roger had a chance. Obviously, 35-mile-per-hour wind gust. He really didn't have a chance, but I was amazed at how well he played. I wanted to say that, some people I talked to actually, oh, by the way, my friends here are Dave Fatito and Christian Woods, and I'm Drew Pagliari. But yeah, Dave, I was mentioning this to you, but some of the people actually thought, what wind? Now, I don't know if they said what wind, that's a little exaggeration, but yeah, there was wind, but they didn't really think it affected the outcome. I think one of the people interviewing Roger said, was it harder to play in that wind? I mean, could you do your normal shots? And Roger's like, no. And of course they asked Rafa, and Rafa I think said it was borderline ridiculous. I'm paraphrasing, but it was tough. But the big thing is, everybody says it's the same for both players, but both players aren't the same, and that's a big deal. Just like balls, surfaces, and climate, which I talk about a lot, players have properties. Like a different type of ball has a property, a different chemical construction in the rubber, felt, the air in the ball, different surfaces they play on have properties, different climates around the globe have different properties. And the players, emotionally, mentally, and physically, are all different and made up different. Now, if the players are somewhat similar in their makeup and the way they play, then the conditions sort of are limited less, because it is the same for both, because both players are the same. But if both players are different, and two players like Roger and Rafa couldn't be more different, then conditions absolutely can favor one or the other, and it can actually really favor it when the conditions are extreme. 35-mile-per-hour wind gusts are very extreme, very unusual, especially in Paris, and honestly, it blows away the normal ball, surface, and climate conditions that you'll get. It just blows it away. It makes it all about the wind. Even the strategy the players are trying to have, their emotional, mental, physical makeup, how injuries, that's all going to still play a part. But unless someone's really injured or someone's just losing their mind, and neither one, Rafa did really well, and Roger did too, the wind was the main story. The wind was the story. So, what I wanted to say too, an analogy to that I keep saying to people is, like, if you put Superman and Batman, and I'll let the fans decide who's what, but if you put Superman and Batman together on a planet and have a war with each other, a fight, a battle, and you spread kryptonite all across the planet, it's going to favor Batman. I mean, that's sort of like saying, well, it's the same for both. They're both playing on kryptonite. Yeah, but kryptonite affects Superman, not Batman. I mean, so that's sort of what I try to say with this stuff. But anyways, one thing I wanted to say is the difference between, when we talk about properties of players or the way players are, Roger is, and people who know tennis know this, but I mean, he's a finesse, he has power, but he's much more variety. He's about finesse and touch, and has a tremendous amount of variety. And not only that, with Ljubicic in his corner lately as a coach, he's been exploring more variety than I've ever seen. Honestly, his match against Wawrinka and the match before Nadal, I thought that was the most exploratory amount of variety I've ever seen from Roger, and any player I've ever seen from, who also has a lot of power. We're not talking about Fabrice Santoro from the old days, who had incredible touch and magic. They called him the magician, but he didn't have the power. You have to have power in today's game. You have to, because of the rackets, the power of the players, and the strategies now. But Roger, mixed power with incredible variety. And against Stan, he was, serving and volley on second serve. And people are doing that today. But he was faking it too. Later in the match, he was, hitting a serve and coming in like he's going to come into volley and back up. And Stan had no idea what was going on at one point. It's a total difference between if you see a guy coming in and the swing you want to take, Stan has a one-handed backhand, and what you want to hit when someone's coming to the net versus what you want to hit when someone's staying back. Total different mindset, let alone stroke production, the whole thing. And if you don't know what's going on, it's sort of like I compare it to option football in American football. And what I the option in American football is a guy's holding a ball basically. There's many types of options, but you have an option, and the defense doesn't know which it's going to be. So let's say you're running at the we'll make up this as a football now. We were running at the line with a football, and there's a guy behind you, and the defense is focused on this guy, but is this guy going to run it? Is this guy going to get it? The wishbone option in the beginning of football, and I don't mean to diverge too much here, but you fake it to this guy. Is this guy going to get it? Is this guy going to run it? Is that guy and now they're doing a whole bunch of different option-oriented stuff. But what that does is it effectively dilutes power. And in today's age of power tennis, which is what the age we're in, and Roger's at a disadvantage. Roger has power over a lot of people until we get to the top of the notch. I mean, Del Potro and Nadal, and then these guys have more power than Roger. Wawrinka, Dominic Thiem. So that's the issue for Roger. He's fighting against all odds, really, to be honest. And he's just amazing at what he does, and he can stay to do that. But the way to dilute it is to keep the other person guessing. It's the same with defense. If you have a really great defense in football, and they're so talented and they work together and they're powerful, how do you dilute that? The beginning, I call it power spread, all that option stuff in football, and I bring it to tennis and everything else. I call it power spread tennis, aggressive variety. But how do you dilute it? You dilute a power. You dilute even more talent by keeping them guessing. They don't know where it's going. In space and time. They don't know the timing. They don't know the space. So again, Roger was faking serve and volleys. He was flipping angles everywhere, faking those angles, and then sometimes hitting a deep, big shot. He was doing drop shots, faking a drop shot. I mean, you didn't know what was coming from him, and it was beyond what I've ever seen him do before, and it was on clay. And clay is tough to get away with all this because of the loose dirt on top. Now, the balls, and I've had a lot of arguments about this, but this isn't for this video, but the balls were playing more lively this year, but the surface had extra top dressing. You saw a lot of guys rubbing their eyes and slipping, and even in qualifying, guys were all trying to work out the kinks, but all throughout the main draw too. There was a little extra top dressing. It was all evening out, but it was good for Roger actually, so that helped him some to have the more lively ball. But with the extra top dressing, you can do little drop shots and angles and varieties, so that made it really nice. But the big thing about Nadal coming in, number one, he's not Wawrinka, and Wawrinka is great, but Nadal can move better. Nadal has the strongest mind of any athlete we know today, and he's the king of clay, as we always say. Especially in the modern style of tennis and on clay courts, he's the best we've ever seen. And it certainly wouldn't have been any easier for him to beat Nadal. It would have been tougher. But I'm saying he had a chance because the wind just blew any chance he had. And I was going to show some of this on the video. But the thing is, too, Rafa has improved his game to the point where he's taking the offensive attack much quicker now. But that actually could have been hurt if he would have done that too much. The one thing can happen is when you dilute someone's power by all the variety, as Federer was doing to Wawrinka, you can induce that player to be over-aggressive too, because they're getting frustrated, they're trying to get to their game and their power, and it gets frustrating. Wawrinka at the end of that match actually did a good job of controlling his emotions and keeping strong, and he fought hard to the end. But Rafa, has found his balance. He was losing, he's much more aggressive on the offensive attack this year, and that's tougher to do on clay. And it took him some time through the clay season, but he worked his way. And I knew, you knew it was coming, that as he won Rome, and here it comes, he's going to be ready for the French, and he really had a good aggressive balance in the French Open. So it was going to be tough for Roger, but I'll tell you this, you take away that wind, I mean, even 10, 15 mile per hour, 20 mile per hour winds would have been tough, let alone 35. But you take that away, we had cold, damp, wet surface. This would have been great for Roger. And a lot of people don't get this. They say, oh, that's bad for Rafa. And Rafa repeatedly says, I like it fast, I like it lively, hot and temperature, so the ball jumps up and the power he has is even more pronounced.
Right.
So with a cold, damp situation, he's not going to get as much power, and Roger can take control more and do all his finesse and artistry and keep Rafa really off balance. So that, if you take that wind away, the other conditions on the climate would have been perfect for Roger. So that even more makes it that this would have been a great match, and Roger could have won. But I want to say here, I have some notes. Yeah, we'll just go right to the video here. And I'll show some of the reasons of what I'm talking about. And they're showing, this is about Federer average topspin back. This is a little detailed, but the point being, I don't even want to go into what that is exactly right now. And I'm only going to look at one game because we'll be here for hours if I look at too much. But basically, Rafa, the number one thing about the wind creates a lot of inaccuracy. I mean, it's hard to control the ball in a heavy, heavy wind, and especially a gusting 35-mile-per-hour wind. So why it helps Rafa is because he spins it with big power spins, heavy power. I mean, it's not like gentle spins. It's a rough, strong spin that will hold itself in a strong wind. But this wind was so strong, even some of Rafa's stuff was going out. But for a guy like Roger, who hits it much lower over the net, so here's the net, here's the ball going over. Rafa's getting his balls up and down, and even though the wind's grabbing it, it's spinning so strong, it stays in the court. Roger's hitting it flat, not as much spin, closer to the net. He's going to make a lot more errors, closer to the lines. Roger's game is built on precision and you know, specific hitting lines and variety. All that stuff requires precision. There is no way Rafa, I mean, honestly, Roger shouldn't have even, this shouldn't have not been a close match. I mean, the first two sets were close. Roger almost went up a break each of the first two sets. He actually did go up a break in the second set. And he almost went up a break in this very first game. I mean, these were closer sets than people are realizing. And I have to give Roger tons of credit. All the odds were against him in this match. Besides playing the best clay court guy, I mean, ever, whatever, he's got 35-mile-per-hour wind. And what he did was absolutely fascinating to me. And it makes me think even more so, Roger has more fight, grit. And you can see here, I'm not going to play him. I hate the amateur psychology stuff. But sometimes we have to try to wonder what they're thinking. It's all speculation, of course. But when you look at Roger's face here, there's no doubt he's thinking, what am I going to do against Rafa in this wind, you know? I don't know. I mean, he could, you know, he's not an idiot. He's played for a long time. He knows this is a big problem and a big disadvantage. But he's also fighting his emotions and trying to stay positive. I thought he stayed very positive. The last set, he let it go because what is he going to do? Fight against Rafa? There was almost no chance. Let's get ready for Wimbledon. I know people don't like to hear that. There's a difference between quitting and being smart. And I think Roger was smart to let the last set go a little bit, personally. But anyways, so let's take a look at this first point. I don't know if you guys can see the wind here. I'm going to let it run. I mean, you see, even Roger's trying to get height. And he got a little lucky. He hit the back of the line there and got a little lucky. But right away, Roger's trying to get height too, but it's not his game. It's Rafa's game. He's being forced to play Rafa's game. And that was a lot of power back, pushing each other back. It's the first point, conservative, but still. Again, Roger's thinking, in my opinion, right now, he's thinking, like, what do I need to do here? You know, no.
That's been the secret to his success in recent times against Nadal. Take the backhand early.
Now look, there's a perfect example. That's an attack that Roger likes to do. Yeah. He's taking it early. You know, that ball's coming in hard off of Rafa. And he's trying to take it. Now, even on the normal conditions, that would be tough. With wind blowing around, here's the second part that I want to really get to. Rafa is not only getting the advantage because of his power consistency, he's getting the advantage because he's now becoming the guy with the variety. And now, how does that happen? You know, Roger's advantage over Nadal is variety. Nadal's advantage over Roger is power. But now Roger has the variety taken away from him. And why I'm saying this is, Rafa's spinning that ball really hard. That's the power, and it's staying in the court. And then it's getting over the net, and it's dipping down. Once it hits this court, especially with a little extra top dressing, but it doesn't matter, any clay court, it hits this, all that clay piles up when the ball hits. This is a little physics, but, you know, backs up, stops the momentum of the ball, takes away a lot of the spin. When the ball bounces up off the court, first of all, because of Rafa's incredible spin, it's going to bounce high. But when it comes off of that, a lot of the spin is gone. What happens when there's no spin now? And the winds are gusting. That ball's like a knuckleball. I don't know if you guys know baseball, but a guy throws a knuckleball with his knuckles. That ball's bouncing around as it gets to the batter. Now this is a baseball bat, and the guy's sitting there like this, and the ball's moving all around, and you're trying to, hit this knuckleball. It's hard to control, but it's hard for the player. That's what's happening to Roger here. Now that shot wasn't really indicative as much, but we're going to go to another one. Rafa's balls are hitting the ground. The spin's coming off. The ball's floating all over the place. A lot of the balls Roger was like trying to get ready to hit, and it was up ahead of him. He couldn't get into it because the ball's moving around. Then another one, as they had the rally later, and look at as the rally comes in, the ball jumped into Roger. So he's finally trying to get in because the ball's slow. Then it jumps into him. It's a nightmare. Now Nadal not only has the advantage in power, now he has the advantage in variety. Now what's Roger's advantage? Nothing. Roger has no advantage now. So that's why this is kryptonite for Roger. The only advantage Roger had is his mind is stronger than I've ever seen it. He fights more than I've ever seen. He has great strategy with Ljubicic in his corner helping him. And by the way, shout out to Carlos Moya, by the way, Nadal's new coach. He's done an incredible job getting Nadal to be more offensive. But anyway, see, I think, let me see if we can get that. That ball, I'm pretty sure this ball effectively was short. Well, that was just a good serve. Yeah. Now that wind blew into Rafa. But then that ball was held up in the air. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Hopefully in the future I can have a little more professional and a little bit more better analysis on the camera. But that ball, the one ball by Roger actually backed in and out. So I think the wind's coming towards Rafa at that point. And then when Rafa hit it, it actually slowed up on Roger and he hit it into the net. And again, you say, well, Rafa got it back, so he's better. But that's Rafa's style. Rafa's used to backing up, big spin over the net. Roger's trying to attack. It's completely different styles, different properties in these two talents. So let's see what we have here. And again, it's hard for Rafa too, but it creates a big advantage for him. That's all. It's not that it's not hard for him. He can't play his best tennis either, but it's a big advantage. Now he's going to try to attack. That's incredible. But Rafa got it back. But he got Rafa off balance with an attack. That's another way. I talk about all the variety, but part of that variety is attack. And then the other part can be finesse. I mean, there's all different parts to it. But for Roger to get in there and get that ball before it knuckled on him, as I was saying, he got it early. Sorry, I guess I'm talking over Jim Courier here. So but so what do we have here? Let's see. I think this is the rally where the balls are really moving. Yeah. And as you can see, Rafa off the bat is having trouble. I think later he slows down his first serve a little bit, just make sure to get it in. The wind's tough for both, but again, these are two completely different type of players. Even though Rafa plays a little more like Federer now, it's still a different player. Now look, that wind just took that. Now Roger did a great job of getting it back, and then that was amazing. Roger did a great defensive reaction. That ball took off because of Rafa's spin, but also the wind grabbed it. And this time, instead of slowing it down, it got into Roger, and Roger just backed up and got it. It was a great defensive move, knocked Rafa off balance, and then Roger could come in and take it quick. So, this is interesting stuff. And I was already amazed in this first game. I actually had called, my boss wanted to know if there was any chance Roger could win. I said, absolutely not with these wins. After this first game, I said, well, give him the 10%. Because I thought, wow, I couldn't believe how he was playing. But I think that Nadal just double fault there. Oh, no. This is the second serve. He's not hitting any first. He fixes that later. Let's see here. But as you can see, Federer has a break point for any of you who think that this was just a blowout the first couple sets. Well, that's a great serve, and there's really not much to say on that. It's a great serve, wind or no wind on that. And that's Rafa's MO, the out wide. And the wind might have helped that, but that doesn't matter too much right there. All right. and another. We missed that. That's another body serve. I don't know if I missed the one. I think yeah, because Roger's going to threaten some more yet. And there's Carlos Moya, by the way. What a job this guy's done. Both he and Ljubicic on Federer's side too. Wow, that was a great return. Now look, this wind is really grabbing this ball. And then that is not like any kind of great drop shot, but with this wind, I mean, that is just a great job by Roger to even, that's a fight by Roger. This is not, Roger, this is all the, like this ball is held up. It's held up right there. That's where Roger looks so off balance. And Rafa too, but Rafa plays this way. Rafa's a fighter, and sometimes things are off balance. He's a great athlete. He can get in contorted positions and do whatever. This is not Roger's game. Roger's like bing, 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 bing. Later, they're doing volleys, and Roger will out-volley Nadal, and I'm sorry Nadal fans are going to flip. He'll out-volley him 90% of the time. Roger's a really instinct-oriented, finesse, touch, feel volleyer. And it's not even about the touch, even though it's great. It's his instincts. He knows where to go. Let's watch this next point. I'll explain in a minute. I come up with a new term called power volleys. I've never thought of that before. All right, again, Rafa having trouble with the serve. And of course, this is a little minor thing, but he got to take a lot of time. They have a time clock. They pretty much turned it off for this match, understandably with the wind and everything. But that helps Rafa too. He can just take as much time as he wants. He knows that they're not going to call him on that with the way with the conditions. I mean, that will be an outrage. Wow. Oh, the first one went in. I forgot to say, that first ball, I saw that before, I remember that. It hit the net, spun up, and went in as a let. Right. And let's not get too detailed here and all that, but honestly, that's part of the power of Rafa. It's his ball is spinning, like, if you can think about this wind, and a ball is just cutting through that wind, hits that net, gets up in the air, goes in. I mean, this is all about power. This helps the power players so much. And then gives them some extra variety because of that knuckle bounce that I talked about. So. No, Roger's, okay, there it is. Okay, yeah, this is it. Check this out. I hope you guys can see this. I'm going to point this out the best I can. The ball is being held up by the wind. Roger's ready to attack, and this is his new style. This is part of what Roger's more of an attacking, he always was, but he's even more of an attacking, more variety. He'll mix up big, strong attacks with finesse and defense, and he mixes the whole thing up now. He was on attack mode here. Without this wind, Rafa's in trouble. I can tell you right now, I don't care. He's in trouble. This was going to be an attack. I saw it in the Wawrinka match. It's great stuff Roger's doing. The wind totally held the ball up. Watch this. So, serve it. Roger's ready to pounce. He almost missed it. The wind. Another one. Wind's holding it up. Roger had to leap forward. Another one. And he's barely getting to it. And Rafa's just staying alive. And that ball, the last ball, for some reason, jumped in his face. The wind's swirling, and it changed at and that wind, the wind's holding the ball back. It's going against Rafa. And Rafa's struggling too, but Rafa's used to this. Even there, Roger almost fell over. But then that one got up into Roger too much. It popped up, not just because of Rafa's just trying to survive that too. They both were trying to survive. So basically what I'm looking at here is the ball comes into Roger. He's ready to attack. He lines it up, and this is going to be a laser shot. And as he goes to do it, the ball stops way up here. And he had to lunge forward, get it. Now Rafa's over on the other side, trying to, get these things too and struggling and all this, but that's his MO. He does this. He's a fighter. He's a boxer in the corner, boom, boom. I give Roger so much credit because he's fighting, man. He's trying. So the ball comes back. Roger's like, I got him. And again, the ball's held up and he lunges forward. One shot, it looked to me like he was almost lunged off like that. Then the last one, Rafa again just fighting, just getting that ball back, took a bounce right into I think the wind swirled right there and it grabbed. So now, Roger's like, I got to get up. This ball's being, the wind's pushing this way. I got to get in there. And next thing you know, the wind swirled, backed him up. And now you're going to say to me, why can Nadal do that? Why can't Roger? And then Nadal's better, period. It has nothing to do. He's better on clay, whatever. Roger's MO is attack. That's a big part of what he's doing now. It's like you're saying, it's hard enough. It was hard. Most players cannot change their style, ever. Big time, especially late in their career. What Rogers improved on is amazing. What Nadal's done is even more amazing. The fact that he's gotten so one-strike tennis now is amazing. Absolutely amazing. You're not going to change in one game. You're not going to be like, oh, the wind's blowing now, I'm totally going to play a different style. And Roger was trying. Roger was really fighting, but it's all advantage Rafa. That point, to me, said it more than anything. And again, I'm showing you subtle. This first game is very subtle. Later in the game, in the match, you'll see much more blatant stuff. And but that's why I think it's kind of neat. And maybe I'll revisit this in the future. But it's really neat to see this first game, because this is something a lot of people in the stands maybe aren't really noticing. I mean, it looks normal. It's just a normal match. And again, Rafa is saving break points. You know, he saved a lot of break points in his life. Yeah, it's not much to that. Okay, so that's the end of it, but he got out of it. So what you're going to say from a lot of fans, same old thing. It's been going on forever. I think there was one, and by the way, everybody always says Roger wasn't even close to Nadal. That's BS. Roger was close on every French Open that I saw. He had so many break points, so many chances. There was the 2008. People say mono in the back then for Roger. He had a back problem. I don't think it was anything physical as much as he just was frustrated, in my opinion. That's my take on it. I don't know. But he looked to me like he had enough. He was so frustrated. He wanted to just blast Nadal out of the water. He was so irritated losing to this guy in the clay all the time. And he was just going for lines. And in the clay courts, you can't do that. You have to work the point. And all his balls were just missing everywhere. And he just lost. I think Roger lost it emotionally. I'm not sure about that. Whatever. But it was. But in this, Roger's really fighting. He's totally at a disadvantage. And I want to say later in the match, when I was talking about those volleys, you know, Roger came up and did some really nice volleys. You know, the backhand dropper, stop drop the kick, like where you don't even, you know. And I'm no, technical guy here. There's people who know a lot more than me about this stuff. I'm just trying to show you. You know, Roger's like doing a little, backspin volley that would cut across the net and then just stop right by the sideline. There's no way Rafa was going to get that. I saw him do that, and the wind grabbed it and just whipped it out of bounds. It wasn't even close, like by 3 feet. It was crazy. Nadal comes in, and this isn't a cut on Nadal. Nadal's improved his volleying so much, and the guy's a great athlete. He's got way more touch and feel than 99% of people who ever played tennis in their life. But when we're getting to the specifics versus Federer, he does not have the touch and feel Roger has, and he knows that. People know that. So, but Rafa's improved so much on all his stuff, and he's more instinctual now, and he knows what to do in the volleys and all this. But his volleys are more like a boom, and, muscles, boom, and he has really strong, hard, volleys, and Roger's the ballet guy. And in this wind, I couldn't believe it. He was pretty much out volleying Roger at the net, and I've seen this happen before, and Roger gets most of them. And this time, it's because Rafa was just, I don't even want to try to work it here to get it on there, but he was just pounding it right at Roger, and so everything in this wind was working for Rafa. It's his style, it's his game. I don't know if I'm making the good point here, but, and what else do I have here? And again, Roger was making great adjustments. He fought, he let it go in the last set, but, I think that's pretty much it. Let me see here. Oh, the only way Rafa could have lost this in this wind is somehow, and it would have been the situation even with no wind. Roger was going to try to keep him off balance and induce Rafa to getting frustrated, because Rafa's style is more aggressive now, or more offensive.
Right.
He was always aggressive in a way, but offensive. Getting over aggressive, like, Rafa's trying to finish those points. Now, I don't think that would have happened, because Rafa's found his balance now on the clay, and he'll be really good going into Wimbledon, I think. But the only thing that could have happened if Roger really frustrated him more, and Nadal was like, "This is the win. This is his." I don't care what he says in an interview. Rafa knows he had the advantage, and then he's trying to, knock Federer out. Federer's beaten him the last 5 times, and then Nadal started to get frustrated, but there's no way. I mean, that's a small, teeny chance that could have happened. That's the only thing that could have happened. He got over-aggressive, and now Rafa's trying to hit winners in the wind, and Federer's the one staying back. But that was fantasy. That wasn't going to happen. Rafa's too smart for that. He's found his aggressive balance on clay now. I mean, I make it sound like he was always great at clay, but it was in a different style. And I thought during the clay season, Rafa was being a little too offensive, and I think he found it's hard. It is a subtle balance, and he found it. He found it just in time. The other thing I mentioned, and I know people don't always buy this, but I do. I think no matter how great you are, you need some tough matches coming in to Rafa didn't have anything. Nishikori was hurt. He didn't have any. He had the easiest draw. And I do think that would have been tough being put under pressure. I think Roger would have broken without the wind, would have been ahead in this set, would have had a chance to hold the brakes, would have had Rafa under so much pressure. And I wonder how Rafa was going to react. He's the strongest mind in sport, so he would have hung in. And like, maybe Rafa wins anyway, like people say. But I'll tell you what, Roger had a chance. That's all I'm trying to say, he had a good chance. Let me see. And I also, one more thing, and I know this is like Mr. Federer fan, it must sound like, but I am impressed. I've given Rafa tons of credit on Twitter, and it's amazing what he's done. All the French Opens, the way he's changed his game lately, all the tons of respect for Rafa, tons of respect for his coaching over there. But I was amazed by how Roger, in these conditions that were ridiculous for him, and he knows it, and anybody who really knows tennis knows it, and he didn't complain, he fought. This isn't always Roger from the old days, in my opinion. I've been frustrated by his mental aspects at times in the past. I think if he was stronger in that aspect, he would have had many more slams, believe it or not, beaten Rafa in some French Opens, the whole thing. But that's neither here nor there now. I just was amazed by what Roger did. And he didn't get down. He kept fighting. It was tough. It had to be a huge disappointment to be coming out going, wow, I get to play the best clay courter we've seen in modern days in 35-mile-per-hour wind after he's improved his game so much. He was kicking butt on clay. He looked great against Wawrinka. That's tough. That's tough. But he handled it. He didn't moan and complain in the press conference. I give him tons of credit. And another player who we know and we love, and Djokovic, tons of respect. And he was right. Djokovic was very furious about the conditions. I don't blame him. But Roger kept quiet about it, and I thought that was pretty cool. And but yeah, no, the conditions did not favor Djokovic either. He's, again, team had the power. Almost not exactly the same, but sort of like this match. Djokovic doesn't have that kind of power, so it made it tough for him. But okay, I don't know if that helps. That's an end.